How about we do a tier maker? Let's go. Let's go. We'll keep some high music going here. We're going to do a tier maker. We're going to rank RPG consoles. I've started it off with 2 in the pool down here. With NES and Super Nintendo. Probably the most recognizable, at least in our community. You know, not saying in general. Dr. O there wants a Jaguar in there, so I'll make sure to add that too. I think I have to put Atari Jaguar so it does the right. Otherwise, yeah, there it is. PS1. We'll add that to the pool. All right, so let's start off with NES. Let's vote. Let's discuss and vote on NES. Where does that belong? We're ranking the system itself, which encompasses its entire library. What constitutes retro? So what is retro is honestly subjective, up to you. But since I'm the one with the mic and the channel, I'm saying anything that's PS2 or earlier is retro. Nothing after that. A tier NES for you because the Final Fantasy games and Zelda. They do. I mean, there are system sellers, right? NES is A. Okay, why? So the whys, I think, are the most important part about this. Would justify your answer, right? A for NES, Sammy says. A for being the foundation for future content. DP says A tier for FF1, 2, and 3, 2 Zelda games, Dragon Warrior games, DuckTales. Delph says B because it's a bit antiquated for his young ass, but you still love NES games. Fair enough. That's a fair reason, Delph. All right, well, for now, we're somewhere in this area, right? Between S, A, and B. I don't think anyone said S. Well, no. So it's between A and B, it looks like. All right, I think we're pretty clear on generally where we're going to get it, so it's poll time. I'll put 4 options. You have 1 minute to vote. Just 1. But I think it's pretty obvious where it's falling. It looks pretty clear. Our NES big boy here has risen to an A rank. I think that's fair. I don't think it's an S. I don't think NES is like one of the greatest systems ever, hands down. Maybe it is, but we're looking at it through today's lens, right? Today's lens. And a lot of those games have aged like milk. The controller is uncomfortable. You know, it's pointy, and it kind of hurts to use for too long. But boy, does it have an excellent library of amazing games still to this day. All right, I told Burr we're going to do Super Nintendo next, so let's go ahead and do that. Super Nintendo, where do we rank that? Del says A because he voted B for NES. Burr says S because it has Chrono Trigger. S tier, End of Life had some amazing games that pushed the tech limits. True. Flarecat says S. 90 to 96 in the Super Nintendo was magical Candyland for RPG nerds. Yeah. But yes, N64 is very retro. That's a hell of a list of great games you got there too. J-Rock says S for SNES. Exclusive amazing games. Super Punch-Out, Mega Man X, etc. Yeah. Full S tier for Stark Help. The best part of the Super Nintendo was the enjoyment you got after you blew on a cart hard enough to make it work again. All right. Let's start voting. We had a lot of good reasons there. I personally think it's S tier. I think it's aged better than the NES. And we have a winner. 9 votes to 1. S tier. Yep. That's not very surprising to me. Through today's lens, I think it's still an amazing system. This one's going to be hard. Not everyone's going to have experience with this one. Let's do the Atari 2600. There's going to be a lot of people who are like, I've never played that. But there might be plenty of others who are like, yo, I played that. I did too. It was my first system. Your mom had one that you played? Yeah, it was my dad's Atari that I played. I know where I would rank it. Mana Hero, you played Atari 2600. Your first console was Pong. So through today's lens, where does an Atari rank? Even though it was my first system, I don't think it's held up very well at all. I just don't think it has those same level of memorable games that other retro consoles like NES, Genesis, and whatnot have. I'm not seeing it as being higher than like a C. I'm just like, okay, obviously age is a factor, but I don't think that it had the memorable games that later systems had. I think it just was notable for creating the home game market or facilitating it, but it didn't have any sort of longevity to it. All right, C barely beat D by a single vote. We had 1 vote for B and 1 for F. This is pretty much like in between, isn't it? Like in between a C and a D. I think that's pretty fair. Like, it's in there. I think it's in between. It's pretty evenly split. All right, let's do this one next. Sega Genesis. Sonic, need to say more? Yeah, you need to actually rank the system. What letter do you give it? You do need to say more. How well did the Genesis age? Not how well did Sega as a company age. The actual Sega Genesis system. What do we view it as today? RPG Chick says A is a good sound card, graphics on par with some of the SNES stuff. It lacks a lot of the great games. The games either had SNES ports or better options. Yeah, there was a lot of games that were on both systems. Shining Force, Phantasy Star, Crusader, Senti, Beyond Oasis, Landstalker, Warsong. You just named, like, all the games I'm trying to get my hands on Ice Lion for Genesis. Every one of those games is on my watch list. Yeah, I never tried the 6-button controller on Genesis. That sounds pretty good. All right, looks like B tier for Genesis. 10 votes. Pretty clear. That's the Atari. Here we go. Honestly, I think that's pretty fair. The Genesis didn't age as well as the NES or the Super Nintendo, but it still aged pretty damn well based through today's lens. It really did. There's still a lot of games that you really can only play on Genesis that still look great. IMO. Obviously, this is all subjective, right? This is a retro-oriented channel. Our answers are going to be viewed through that lens, but that doesn't mean that everyone's answer is going to be the same. We've had a lot of different opinions here, which is really cool. Let's do PS1 next. PS1. All right, PS1. I think this one's going to do pretty well, but we'll see. Through today's lens, how is the PS1 done? Seen a lot of S's, yeah. It picked up where the Super Nintendo left off and kept running, says Flare Cat. Interesting point. It was the golden age of RPG games for you. For me, the golden age of RPG games was Super Nintendo. Jump-started RPGs again with Final Fantasy VII being made. It didn't just jump-start RPGs, it actually made them mainstream. RPGs were not popular until Final Fantasy VII, and they're still not popular, but they are far more popular today than they used to be. Wasn't the first disc system, but it had some amazing games, much better RPGs than the other systems. Final Fantasy VII, Gran Turismo, Crash, and/or Spyro gives it an A. The inclusion of like full motion video on the PS1, yes, that existed on other systems, but not very well. But the way the PS1 did it, this one's gonna be contentious. We got a few seconds left to get your votes in. All right, 8 votes picked S, 6 votes picked A. S tier for PS1, but it was close. All right, let's do N64 next. A for GoldenEye. GoldenEye runs like shit. But it was great when it came out. I like Perfect Dark, but in my opinion, I think GoldenEye's a better game. 3-prong controller wasn't exactly fun. Yeah, it wasn't, was it? It really wasn't. I love the positioning for the trigger on the N64. Yeah, I thought that was great. Controller is terrible. Ruined people's hands in Mario Party. N64 gave us Conker's Bad Fur Day. Sure. Seeing a B, C, somewhere in there. Viewed from today, you think it's a really low A or high B. Okay, let's make the poll. There's a lot. I like this. I like this one for the N64 because it's so, like, everyone has such varied answers and experiences. This is going to be tough. I think this is going to be a pretty even split. I'm still deciding what I want to vote. That's tough. A. Apparently, chat thinks it's an A. To me, that's crazy. I don't think it belongs anywhere near an A. I think it's a C. The early 3D looks like garbage. Remember, we're voting through the lens of today. Like, how does it hold up today? There's no way it's an A. I wholly disagree with this ranking, but you guys say it's an A, so there we go. Is Dreamcast classed as retro? For our purposes here, Bonk? Yes. For my definition, because we're going to use my definition for retro here, just so we all have that same frame of reference right now, because we all have different definitions of what is and isn't retro. But for you, the purpose of the discussion, we're going to use my frame of reference. So anything PS2 or earlier, we will say is retro. So that includes Dreamcast and GameCube. How about we talk about the GameCube? What do we think about the GameCube, folks? GameCube, while not a masterpiece, took a pretty good direction, says Tomba. Okay. I didn't own a GameCube until recently, until like a year or two ago. DP gives it a B. Good controller, agreed. Good graphics, yeah. You say A or S, Zodiac? Okay, remember, justify your reason. Tell us why you think it's an A or an S. We'd like to hear your viewpoint. Choices of games are pretty limited, said Samba. It's hard for me to even vote on this system because I didn't really play any games on it until recently. I actually had to do work to find games on the GameCube that I wanted to play. There was only a few. All right, let's see. Well, we got a lot of votes for this one. Very cool. 13 votes said B, 4 said A, 2 said S. Honestly, that's pretty fair in my opinion. I think that's a good slot for it. I think it has held up better than the 64. This is backwards than for me. Let's see, what other systems we got? We can do PS2. While you guys discuss PS2, I will add Dreamcast. I think that belongs on there. I don't know if we should do Master System because I feel like the amount of people that have had or played that is very stupid low. But I'll add Dreamcast to the conversation. But we're talking about PS2 now. Discuss how you think the PS2 is aged viewed through today's lens. PS2 is still the most successful console in terms of sales. I think so, but I don't know for sure. Greatest console of all time, says Lurk Stuff. Still owns his, refused to get rid of his library. PS2 is the one console you have to actually explain what's bad about it. It's okay. You could use your old memory cards. You could use your old controllers on it. You could play DVDs on it. You could play audio CDs on it. The thing did everything. It was a straight upgrade from a PS1. Pretty much, yes. The controller was an improvement on the PS1 as well, yeah. Shadow of Colossus was one of the late cycle games on PS2 that pushed it to its limits, yeah. What do we got? Wow, this one is like a landslide. 14 votes give PS2 an S tier, and then 1 each for A, B, and C. Honestly, as far as the votes go, I pretty much agree with this one. I don't think a PS1 is S tier, I think it's more A. But the PS2 is literally a straight upgrade to a PS1 with very minor nitpicky differences. It had a longer life cycle on the market, it had more worldwide distribution, it had higher sales, it had a more varied game library, it let you use all your old peripherals from the PS1, it let you use all your old games from the PS1, it let you watch DVDs, like it was just everything a PS1 could do but better, and still very well regarded. Still very well regarded. Alright, I don't know how many people have played this system. I have not. How many people have played an Atari Jaguar and are able to give information on it? I am not one of those people. Nope, nobody's played a Jaguar. Does this store demo count? I guess. I want to add those other consoles, but we would actually need people who have used them to cast a vote, right? Otherwise, we're just going to be like, shrug. We can't have a discussion on something we don't know anything about, really. I think this one might have to stay in the pool because we don't not enough data, right? Not enough data. We don't have enough folks that are experienced with the system to really cast a vote for it, sadly. And it looks pretty universal there. We've got 1 or 2 people that have played it once. The controller is atrociously bad. Interesting. F by today's standard, D on its best day. You want one too? Yeah. The Jaguar is a victim of bad third-party quality control. Interesting. All right. 3 votes for F. 2 votes for C. None for D, interestingly enough. So honestly, that kind of just pops it like here-ish. It's like here-ish. It's kind of touching on D, you know, it's in there. It's in there. Dreamcast. Sega Dreamcast. This is going to be an interesting one. Sega Dreamcast. How well has our Dreamcast held up the test of time? Through today's lens, what do we think about the Dreamcast? You say D, RPG chick? Was Lunar Dreamcast? Lunar was Sega CD. What really killed the Dreamcast was piracy. It was heavily pirated, yeah. Skies of Arcadia, Jet Set Radio, that was Dreamcast, yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was on there. Resident Evil Code Veronica, yeah, that used to be Dreamcast. And the House of the Dead games. I had Phantasy Star Online, that was a pretty popular Dreamcast game. Grandia 2 was a really good Dreamcast game. Space Channel 5 was a pretty popular one. I did enjoy the Dreamcast. Alright, let's bring up the poll for Dreamcast. There's some games on the Dreamcast that I really want to play, but for the most part, looking back, I'm like, it did some interesting things, like the virtual memory unit was neat. The controller was kind of uncomfortable. I didn't really like the controller. 7 votes for C, 2 for A, 1 each for S, B, and D. Pretty solid in the C territory there. Saturn, okay, we can do Saturn. I don't think there's going to be a lot of experience with the Saturn, but we can add it. There you go, there's a Sega Saturn. Give me the original beastly Xbox, not these new ones. Those things were just bricks. All right, so current discussion is the Sega Saturn. What do we know about that? Controller is really good. The D-pad on the Saturn is amazing. Here's the Saturn controller. Obviously, it needs to be dusted because I haven't used it in forever. It's a 6 button. Really nice grip. Fits really well. The D-pad is awesome on this thing. The D-pad is so good. You can feel it hit every corner. It's such a good D-pad. Of the Saturn games out there currently, I want to play Albert Odyssey, Dark Savior, Dragon Force, Guardian Heroes, The Legend of Oasis, Linkle Liver, Magic Knight Ray Earth, Panzer Dragoon Saga, Shining Force 3, Shining the Holy Ark, and Shining Wisdom are all games on the Saturn I'd like to try. All right, let's do votes for this. We're going to vote for the Saturn. Saturn tier. All right, what do we got? 7 votes for B, 3 for A, 2 for S, 1 each for C and D. That's fair. If the game had a bigger library, I think it would have been rated higher. I would have personally put it C or B, so that works. I think that's pretty fair. We still have to vote on Xbox. Okay, OG Xbox is the last one, I think. I don't have much experience with the original Xbox. I played X-Men Legends 1 and 2 on it, and that's it. Because my roommate had those. The controller was uncomfortable. Those 2 games were really cool. But I couldn't tell you what's on the system. Burra says A for Halo 2, Steel Battalion Force, Fable, Splinter Cell. It didn't have a lot of cool stuff for it initially. It was what the Dreamcast could have been had they continued. Same underlying OS. Oh, interesting. Was Red Ring of Death a 360 thing? I believe so, but I don't know. I know it was definitely a 360 thing, but I don't know if it was only a 360 thing. C, Xbox could be fringe B, but awful controller and habitually bricked itself. Oof. I didn't realize even the original Xbox had that same problem. I can't really give an informed opinion on the Xbox because of how few games I personally played on it. I just know the controller was uncomfortable, and there really weren't a lot of games out there that I wanted to try it on, so I didn't try to get one. All right, poll is up to cast your votes. So it's like in here-ish. Slightly above C, but not much, but basically a C. I think that's pretty much all the console from those eras, right? I mean, I can think of some fringe ones, but we're really, scraping the barrel at that point. I disagree with the Nintendo 64 very strongly on this one. Chat voted A. I think it's a C. For PS1, I think it's an A. The rest of them look fairly good to me. I think a Saturn should have been a C, not a B. As much as I like the RPG's potential it's got. Overall, I don't think it's aged very well. But for the most part, I'm pretty much aligned with these votes. For the most part. Alright. Well, let me put the TG16 on there, and we'll hear from anyone that knows about it what they think of it. I think this is it right here, right? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's it. Oof, that controller does not look comfortable. Well, anyone with experience with a TG16, I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's been a lot of people that have played this system. Some of the best versions of East had Snatcher. Snatcher's a game I'd like to play. There's a certain amount of it not being widespread enough that it knocks it down a little. Yeah, I think that this plays into consideration. All right, so it looks like you folks put it like in here. You think it falls between a B and a C? I've never played any games on it, so I can't really value that, but it looks weird to me seeing it rated higher than a Dreamcast. But that, again, that's why I was a little reluctant to vote for this one, just because of lack of information and experience with it. All right, I'm going to screenshot this and put it in the gaming Discord channel. All right. That was cool. That was fun. I think we pretty much covered all the bases I think we're going to cover there. I think this should be lower, personally, the TG, compared to a Dreamcast. Dreamcast is more well-regarded, but I think there's folks that, the people that like the TG, like it. They really like it. It's like a cult classic console kind of thing. But this was overall mostly agreed with. I don't agree with N64's placement. That should be lower. PS1 should be A, I think. Saturn, I think, should be a C. It had a lot of potential that it did not realize. Most everything else on there I agree with. Maybe I'd give the Atari a D. I don't think it's aged very well at all. But, you know, it's in between a C and a D, so it's about right there. The Jaguar was rough, yeah. Someone asked about it earlier. So I was like, yeah, I'll throw it down there. So if you like retro content, there you go. Enjoy some retro consoles, retro game consoles, while I take my break. Should be real quick. These are more ways to entertain you while I'm going to get some water and a snack. When I get back, we're going to play some Twilight Princess, so don't go anywhere. Thanks for watching my video, folks. If you liked what you saw, check my Twitch channel below the video down there, as well as related social medias and my Discord community. See you next time.